Good morning. Good morning. It's so good to see all of y'all this morning. So I get the pleasure and honor to talk to you guys this morning and bring the word. And so we are going to be wrapping up our sermon series today of Unseen and Forgotten. And I want to speak to you guys about something that we all hate to do. And that is waiting. Right? It's such a difficult thing to do. And we live in such a fast-paced world where we have a whole lot to do. And one of the things is the internet is so fast, right? As you can tell, I'm still a little under the weather, but last weekend it took me out. So I was able to stream shows all weekend that I didn't even have to worry about commercials and all that. And I didn't have to wait to see something that's coming up. I can go ahead and watch it. How many of y'all have been to the DMV lately? Anybody? I tell you, there was a situation a few weeks ago where I was tested in the whole waiting process. So I recently we won't talk about the age, but I had a birthday. And my time had come that I needed to renew my license. And I'm in a little bit of a job where I need my license to be good because I drive children around. So I'm like, okay, well, everybody tells me you can just walk into the DMV and just wait and they'll see you. I mean, it's been a year since I've been to the DMV, so I just think, okay, cool. So the 12 to 5 situation that they have, so I go and I get there right before 12, sit down. I have Genesis with me, and we wait and wait and wait. 5 p.m. comes, and they say, sorry, you'll have to come back another day. We're done seeing everybody. There's like a dozen of us still in the waiting room. We're like, wait, what? Hold up. No. I need this today. My license is going to expire in 4 days. So, I'm frustrated, right? I mean, we all would be in that place. And so a couple friends, as I'm expressing my frustration through the rest of the day, tell me, there are cancellations, typically. And so just hop on there and try to find one. Well, if you've ever done that, you're having to go through all the different locations online, and who has time for that? So we had a pretty busy weekend. So Saturday morning I get up and I'm like, okay, God, I need some favor. I need you to provide an appointment for me, if it will be in your will. So I get on the computer, and lo and behold, Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. in Concord, I have an appointment. So it took 30 minutes, and it was beautiful. So, sometimes, the waiting is tough. So, and we aren't conditioned to wait, right? But this is one of the tools that God uses when we come to him. And we give our lives to him, and he puts us in seasons of waiting. And I did a quick Google search, and I referenced the word waiting in the Bible, and it's found 119 times. And you see, I didn't have to wait very long to find that, right? But it's a difficult thing to do. But God calls us to do it. And as much of a difficult thing that it is to wait, we cannot get confused when God calls us to be still. Because being still does not equate to doing nothing. So today I want to go into Exodus 32. And so when the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, they gathered around Aaron and said, "Come, make us gods who will go before us. As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. Then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, "Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord." So there's a lot within this. The people of Israel begin to get impatient with Moses because they're waiting, right? While Moses was meeting with God in the mountain. Waiting can be a very difficult and frustrating process. We all want what's already at the end of the road without having to walk through it. But God has called us to the process. And because it's in the process that he is going to shape and mold us, there are things that he wants to teach us while we're in the wilderness. There are things that he wants to take from you and add to you while in the desert. There's a part of history that you may or may not know. I learned this, that is not in the Bible. It's called the intertestamental period. So what is that? It's a 400-year period after the Old Testament ends and before the New Testament begins. During this time, there is no word from God, completely silent. It had taken 40 days of silence for the Israelites to disobey God. Imagine waiting 400 years. Because at least in the Old Testament days, God will speak instruction. In 400 years, there was silence. And maybe that's you right now. Maybe you're waiting, you're praying to God and asking him, why can't I hear you? Why are you silent? And maybe you don't hear his voice. And all you're looking for is at least a sign. So during the 400 years, there were things that still happened. Alexander the Great conquers the world. He spoke Greek. The Bible gets translated from Hebrew to Greek. The Roman Empire conquers the Greek peninsula and begins to create road systems for travel and trading. So God was working in the waiting, and he's working in the silence. Even when you don't see it, feel it, or hear him, he's working. So on a little bit of a personal note, here we go. I'm going to try to get through it without too much emotion. We've had a personal situation that's been going on 2.5 years. So I can tell you on a personal level, there's been a lot of silence. And we've asked God, why is this still going on? Our oldest son found himself in a situation that has created a lot of legal challenges. And we haven't even gotten to the first step of it. And that's been 2.5 years. And I can only talk about our experience in the waiting. I can't imagine what his is. See, he lives in New Jersey. And being away from his family, and there's different seasons in the waiting. There's sadness, there's anger, frustration. You can feel like you're at your lowest point. And we can feel like God is being quiet because the outcome we are waiting for isn't happening. Like, why not now, God? It's been so long. We can feel like we're in the desert. And I can tell you, me personally, during this process, there have been moments where I have definitely feel like I'm in the desert. So if that's you, if you are in the desert, God wants you to know that he's shaping and molding you right now. That he is preparing you for the next season. And that is something that we are continuously reminding our son. There's going to be an amazing testimony at the end of it. So now the Israelites are in the desert in the season of waiting. And what do? They create gods for themselves, specifically a golden calf. So we're going to go back to verse 2. Aaron answered them, "Take off the gold earrings that your wives, your sons, and your daughters are wearing, and bring them to me." So all the people took off their earrings and brought them to Aaron. He took what they handed him and made it into an idol, cast in the shape of a calf, fashioning it with a tool. And then they said, "These are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." So again, they grew impatient and made a golden calf, which was an act of disobedience to God. When we are impatient and try to take matters in our own hands, we typically end up making mistakes and sinning. Although we have God's commands in print, our Bibles, we can often get frustrated when he doesn't seem to be moving according to our timeline. So we try to force his hand via our means. And sometimes it's not even sinning, it's just we're in a hurry. So we're trying to just, okay, well, how can I fix it? How can I get it done now? But he does not give us permission to do so yet, because his hand is in it. One of the things that caught my attention about this passage is that the Israelites took the gold that came as a gift from Egypt, a gift that God gave them, and turned it into an abomination. They began to worship the gift and not the God that supplied the gift. Have you done that with your calling? Have you replaced your God with the calling? Are you sitting down in church instead of worshiping God where you belong because you lost sight of what God gave you? Do you think that you can control God? The Israelites thought that. In verse 5 it says, "When Aaron saw this, he built an altar in front of the calf and announced, 'Tomorrow there will be a festival to the Lord.'" When we see a capital Lord in the Old Testament, this is a translation for us to know that the Bible is referring to Yahweh, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, our God, the only God. When Aaron says, "Tomorrow we are going to throw a festival," we are going to throw a feast and a party to Yahweh, and he refers to the calf. They weren't worshiping an idol. The Israelites were replacing God with this calf. An animal, I can control an animal. And I can understand that an animal is beneath me, and God is none of those things. So I don't worship the talents I have. Personally, I don't worship my ability to organize an event while I'm doing it. I don't worship my gift. I want to worship that God gave me that gift. So God also pursues us in the waiting. Out of every religion in the world, Christianity is unique. Unique in the way that I don't have to work to earn God's love. Salvation is a gift through grace. It was given. I don't have to do things to earn my way into his acceptance. Despite what the Lord tells you, despite what the world tells you, his word tells me to come to him as I am. So in chapter 33, verse 16, Moses speaking to God, he asked, "How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all of the other people on the face of the earth?" What he wants is a relationship with you and I. We see this in Exodus 33. This is an incredible image of God pursuing his people, despite their sin and disobedience. God did not abandon them. Instead, he pursued them with his love and grace. He showed them his glory and allowed them to experience his presence, even though they might not have deserved it. So some of the things, in the 2.5 years, there have been many things in our son's lives that has come up. Obstacles that have gotten in his way. He feels kind of stuck. And God has had his hand in it the whole entire time. Because a lot of times when we're working and walking through one of those processes, in any process in life, in any obstacle, we don't see him actually working in the process. We look back and we're like, wow. He was there the whole time. But we don't see it. And at times, you can feel very, very alone through the process. I can tell you personally, because we just don't talk about it. We all go through situations and there's things we just don't tell people, right? We keep it inside and we pray about it and we just don't talk about it. So there's times where the desert has been very real. And sometimes we may feel like we are too broken, too unworthy, or too far gone for God to pursue us. But God's love is relentless. He pursues us with a passion that we cannot even imagine. I texted my son this morning. And I told him, I said, I just want you to know I'm preaching this morning. And he knows how difficult this is for me to get up in front of people. And I said, I just want you to know I'm using your experience as an example. No details, just that we're walking through something together. And God has been in it. I said, I love you. And he works a lot, so a lot of times I don't get replies. And he said, I love you more. He has another court date, October 8th. It's his birthday. And we're praying real hard that God just lets it go. And if not, we'll still be in the season of waiting, and that's okay. But if you're in a season of waiting and something in your life and you need to experience God or you need prayer, the altar's open. And the invitation is there, just if you just say prayer. So we'll just take a few minutes if anybody needs just to have a few moments in his presence. We've had a wonderful, wonderful time in his presence this morning. I don't know about y'all, but I've felt it.